You know, I think all the young guys at that time who was coming along wanted to be a Claybrook Tiger.
We keep running across this team called the Claybrook Tigers. Who were these guys?
They could play Major League Baseball. They could play with anybody, the Claybrook Tigers.
The town of Claybrook, Arkansas no longer exists today, but in the mid-1930s, it was home to a black baseball team that played and often beat some of the best Negro League teams around. It was an unlikely home for a professionally competitive baseball team because even then, Claybrook was just a small Arkansas community. The town was the logging and farming headquarters for John C. Claybrook, an illiterate teenage runaway from Alabama who, through hard work and good business sense, rose above his circumstances to become one of the South's wealthiest black businessmen of his time. And while it was not uncommon for a man with Claybrook's wealth to sponsor a baseball team for his community, it was uncommon for it to be as nationally competitive as the Tigers were.
Well, it wasn't so unusual for a team, a Negro Leagues team, to exist in a small community. There were several of them. What was unusual was the quality of the team and the national presence that this particular team had.
There's an air of mystery surrounding the story of the Claybrook Tigers. Nothing is left of Claybrook, Arkansas. Most of the people who live there have died or moved away long ago. Little information remains and few known photographs exist. Most of the baseball players who came through Claybrook are no longer around. And though lives have passed and memories have faded, it's an important story in American history. It's the story about a man, his town, and the baseball team he strove to make as successful as himself. This is Swingin Timber, the story of the Claybrook Tigers. In November of 2000, about 150 former Negro League baseball players come together for a reunion in Kansas City, the home of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. While the purpose of the gathering is to give these men and women some deserving and overdue recognition, the players seem content to reminisce and celebrate together their opportunity to play baseball. It was an opportunity not given to them, but created by their desire not to be denied a game they loved. The Negro Leagues were formed in 1920 because blacks were not allowed to play in the white major leagues, and for most of its 40 years, the Negro Leagues thrived and at one time were the third most profitable black business in the United States. Today, many people may be familiar with Satchel Paige or Josh Gibson, but few may know that Negro League teams often played exhibition games against white major leaguers. These games were fairly evenly split, showing the equal levels of competitiveness in the separate leagues. And while Negro League teams were in Kansas City, Memphis, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Birmingham, and other major cities, they spent much of their time traveling across the country playing in smaller towns against teams like the Claybrook Tigers. Understanding the Claybrook Tigers, who they were, why the team was formed, and why it was so well respected requires first knowing about the founder and owner.
To me, he looks like a kind of unusual man. He just wasn't a general run-of-the-mill kind of man, okay?
Solon Anthony has a home and business in Anthonyville, Arkansas, just a few miles from where the town of Claybrook was located. He grew up in the area and is a cousin of John C. Claybrook.
There wasn't but a few people around that was really doing things that Mr. Claybrook was doing. He was a very successful man.
Claybrook was born in Florence, Alabama in 1871. At the age of 13, he ran away to Memphis, Tennessee, and for a number of years worked as a roustabout on boats along the Mississippi River. He later moved to Mississippi, where he leased 15 acres of plantation land. By 1916, he was in eastern Arkansas with 2 acres of land. Here in Crittenden County, about 25 miles west of Memphis, Claybrook began his logging and farming operation. He soon earned a reputation as a responsible lumber contractor who could supply millions of feet of lumber on short notice. After clearing the land, he planted cotton, which he was successful at as well.
Mr. Claybrook was a hard-working man. He was a dedicated man to his work. And if you worked for him, he expected you to work, okay? He had this group of men in the woods cutting timber. And for some unknown reason, something happened and, well, the saw broke. Something happened to the saw and they couldn't cut. So they was just sitting there waiting for somebody to go and bring something back to repair the saw. So while they were away, Mr. Claybrook came in and saw them sitting down. And he wanted to know what's happening here, what's wrong. He said, well, we couldn't go on and the fellow couldn't cut anymore because the factory saw broke down. He said, well, just get up and jump up and down, walk round and round, just don't sit down, okay?
Claybrook not only worked hard, he had good business sense.
Well, he was smart enough to keep himself surrounded with people who were successful. And he had a good working relationship with those kind of people. And these people were white people, okay?
It appears Claybrook did have good relations with whites. In 1938, he got national attention as the first black to serve on a Crittenden County criminal jury since Reconstruction. Claybrook was able to build a small but lively town on his farm. Today there's nothing left of Claybrook except fields and the vivid memories of Solon Anthony.
Claybrook, Arkansas in the 30s, as you entered it from the south side, you would see a big ballpark. And you continue, you would see a little station on the railroad that says Claybrook, Arkansas. And as you turn to your left to go over the track, there's a big grocery store. And you look around to your left there, and there was a big gin. Right to the right of that gin, you would find a clubhouse. You had a dance hall there, and you had this jukebox in that dance hall. And I used to go down to the lot to feed my daddy's mules and pump water for my daddy's mules and cows. And as I was pumping, I would hear the music coming across the woods. And that was one song I could always remember. And that song was, West Wind, West Wind, please blow my baby back to me.
As popular as the clubhouse was, there was an even bigger attraction in town, the Claybrook Tigers. Just what drove John C. Claybrook to form a professional baseball team in the first place?
Well, Mr. Claybrook had a son, John C. Claybrook Jr. John Jr. was a guy who, he loved sports. And he wasn't a lot interested in farming. Mr. Claybrook felt like he could form a team, a ball team for him, that would encourage him to come with him and help him along on the farm, his log camp, or whatever. So he formed this ball team for his son.
So in the early 30s, Claybrook set out to form his team and to build a stadium. Gib Meeks operates a TV VCR repair store in St. Louis today, but in the 40s he played Negro League baseball.
Claybrook wanted to build a ball club that was competitive and equal to anybody traveling. So he sent scouts out and people to get good ball players from different towns to come and join his ball club. It was during the Depression, 1933, 35 and everything. Didn't nobody have too much money. So if a guy got a chance to go away and play ball, he didn't care. It was what he wanted to do. It was just for the love of the game. And he could get players like that.
Claybrook did get players. While some were local athletes and farmhands, many were professional players who were or later became well known in the Negro Leagues. One of the few known artifacts of the Claybrook Tigers is this team picture, believed to have been taken in 1935. It is from John Haddock's collection of baseball photographs.
Well, it was extraordinary to find that because I've never seen another copy of this particular team or any other Claybrook Tigers team. I've not seen individual shots of players in uniform at all. We have probably 200 or 300 pictures altogether, 200 or 300 photos, and one of the Claybrook Tigers.
With this photograph, along with a few box scores and memories from former players, we can begin to piece together who the Claybrook Tigers were. Gene Smith played in the Negro Leagues for 10 years with a number of teams, including the New York Black Yankees, Cleveland Buckeyes, and the Chicago American Giants. He was 19 when he played against the Claybrook Tigers in 1935 in his hometown of St. Louis, one of Claybrook's favorite places to pick up players.
They had a bunch of the local boys on that team. Claybrook, Jess Askew, Alex Smith, Dan Wilson, Johnny Lyles.
Johnny Lyles played for the Tigers in 1935.
Johnny Lyles was the brute. He was rough, tough guy.
Johnny Lyles was we called him the brute because he was a toughie. He played all kind of sports. He played basketball, football, baseball, and he was a versatile.
He's a good ball player. Played short, third base, outfield, catch. He's just a good ball, and could pitch. Good ball player.
He was an infield. He could play short, third, second, and he gave it all he had. He would give it 100%. He didn't never loaf.
Johnny's downfall was his drinking. He had a problem with alcohol. That was his problem.
His only defect was, the alcohol a little bit sometimes. Yeah, getting a drink. Yeah.
Other than that, you couldn't ask for a better fellow as a teammate. Oh, God. He was there for everybody. Everybody loved Johnny Lyles.
Two of the players were brothers, Emmett and Dan Wilson.
Dan was the better ball player. He could hit from both sides, and he was an infielder and could play outfield, but he played short and mostly second. He broke up the Negro League East and West game in Comiskey Park in 1939 with a home run, broke up the game. Now, Emmett was a speed demon. He could steal bases and whatnot. And he could switch hit. He could hit from both sides. So those were the attributes of Dan and Emmett.
One of Solon Anthony's most vivid memories of the Claybrook Tigers was a one-armed player named Bill Ball.
There was one man they called on his team, they called him Wing. Wing was a guy who had one arm, and he played first base. Wing could catch that ball and hang that glove under the snub, pull it off, get that ball, and throw it any way you want to throw it, okay? Wing could throw that ball any way you want to throw it. Wing could take that one arm and hit that ball and knock it as far as he wanted to knock it with one arm.
Bill Ball was a left-hand hitting, one-arm ball player. Hit from the left side, made contact. His main attribute was making contact. And he could feel. Yeah, go back, go back with, let's see, with this hand. And and then reach in and, yeah, that's the way they operated.
Yeah.
Theolic Fireball Smith, another popular player, pitched for the Tigers in 1935 and had a long, successful career in the Negro Leagues.
Steve was a fastball pitcher. I mean, throw hard. And guarantee around 12 or 13 strikeouts a game. And he was a smart pitcher. But he didn't like for any relief pitcher to come in. He wanted to go himself, go 9. Like the catchers used to talk to the pitchers and say, look good, go 9.
Other players in the photograph include Alfred Saylor, who later played for the Birmingham Black Barons, Eggy Henley, a veteran Negro Leaguer at the time he played with Claybrook, had previously been with the St. Louis Stars. There was Handful Davis, a pitcher.
He grabbed 2 hands of biscuits and put them in his pocket when he left home to play ball. Now that's where he got the name of Handful, those are biscuits.
There was Bill Tate, a speedy center fielder, pitcher Bill Adams, infielder Charlie Henderson, and Walter Calhoun.
Calhoun was an outfielder and also a pitcher, control pitcher. Paint the plate. Could move it here, could move it there, and you couldn't dig in on him too much.
But of all the players who passed through Claybrook, none were as colorful and as well known as Ted Double Duty Radcliffe. At 98 years old, Double Duty is one of the oldest living Negro League players around today. He's the only known surviving Claybrook Tiger. Radcliffe played and managed in the Negro Leagues for over 20 years with a number of teams. He got his nickname because he would often pitch the first game of a doubleheader and catch the second game.
But we would tease him and call him triple duty because he would, the pitcher and catch, but he also managed the games at the same time.
As a player, Double Duty was talented and confident.
Double Duty believed in himself. He believed that he could win any ball game that he went out to pitch. Good hitter, too. Duty could hit that ball.
Double Duty was, and still is, known for his interest in women.
Double Duty was a lazy man because we saw him, they had him on the day show one day, the day show, and Double Duty was there talking to some people in the project area, some women. He said, oh, you women are too old, I'm going down there with the young women.
He'd keep you up all night. If he's seeing any nice lady walking, he could elaborate on that. He said, man, look at that, Yeah, that's what's keeping Duty alive today.
Claybrook knew that Double Duty's talent and personality would draw fans, so in 1936, he set out to get him to play and manage for the Tigers.
Well, Duty was always looking for a way to move up in baseball. He was looking for a way to move up financially. Claybrook contacted him, promised to pay him a certain amount, and it was a pretty good deal. That's what brought Duty in.
We came up to Chicago to get me to manage. He told me that he would give me $600 a month, which was a lot of money in those days, and 20% of the gate. I don't see how I could do it, but I took off. The first Sunday we played the Cuban Stars. That's when I pitched the no-hitter, and I made $800 and some from my part. The next Sunday I made $1,100 when we played the guys with the grass skirts, the Zulu Giants, Cannibal.
Double Duty was treated well by Claybrook. While other players lived in the boarding house, he stayed in Claybrook's own house.
He treated me like a king.
Claybrook recruited players such as Double Duty, Theolic Smith, and the Wilson brothers because he wanted a first-class team. The team photograph reveals that he wanted them to look first-class, too.
If you take a look at the uniforms in the photograph, you see that the uniforms are uniform. Okay, but we have several pictures, for example, the Memphis Red Sox in the early 50s, where you might have a team picture and 6 different uniforms.
They were the cleanest ball team anywhere in America. Fed them well, took care of them well, and he treated them well.
In return, Claybrook got what he wanted: success on the field and fans in the stands. The Tigers did their share of barnstorming, traveling across the country to play town teams. But they played most of their games in either Memphis or Claybrook, against the Memphis Red Sox, the Cuban Stars, the Chicago American Giants, the Cincinnati Tigers, and the Pittsburgh Crawfords.
They played against such players in Memphis as Cool Papa Bell, regarded to be possibly the fastest player ever to play the game, Oscar Charleston, Josh Gibson. They were bringing teams like that. They played against all-star teams, would beat them, would split with them, so they were extremely competitive.
Though records were seldom kept, there are numerous newspaper accounts of Tiger victories. One article says that Claybrook won 26 out of the 37 games they played in 1935. That same year, they were given the title of Negro Southern League Champion. This was a title of respect, since technically they were not an official member of the Negro Leagues.
The Claybrook Tigers fit in the Negro League as an associate member of the league. That was a high, respectable thing.
Fans just wanted to see good baseball, so they came in big numbers to see the Tigers play. The Memphis Commercial Appeal reported, "The Claybrook Tigers are probably the best drawing card in the Southern Circle." Their average attendance in Memphis and in Arkansas parks was about 2,000. Sometimes it was more. The Tigers played many of their games in Memphis at either Russwood Park, home to the White Memphis Chicks, or Martin Stadium, home to the Memphis Red Sox.
If they'd come to Memphis, they would fill up Martin Park. The park would hold 8,000 easy. Sometimes they'd have roped off the field, the outfield, and let the people get in the outfield.
They attracted many fans to their home field as well.
We have some indication from newspaper clippings that they would get up to 6,000 fans to go to the ballpark over there, and my guess is around that from time to time in Russwood Park in Memphis. I know Double Duty has mentioned that they would draw more fans there than the white team, and it was the white team's ballpark.
Solon Anthony went to the games in Claybrook as a boy.
It was exciting, fantastic. It was exciting. On the 4th of July or any other time when there's a game, the place was full. You're gonna find people from Memphis, from all areas of the Earl, Forest City, Helena, Mariana, Little Rock area. You're gonna find people from all around when they play Claybrook's Tigers are playing, okay?
Claybrook entertained the fans with more than baseball.
There were many interesting ways, I think, that the Negro Leagues teams would promote the games. They would have, in fact, some fairly bizarre things. As someone told me, John Claybrook maybe would bury a man alive as a gimmick.
And this guy would be buried, man. He's covered up. I don't know how that thing worked. I really don't know. But I know he would bury this guy alive, okay? And he stayed down there so long, man, they dig him up and come on out. I don't know what happened. I really don't. I don't know the secret to that, but he did do it.
Gimmicks or not, the fans came to see baseball. The Claybrook Tigers had exceptional seasons in 1935 and 1936. After that, they began to fade from the local papers. The team apparently folded about this time. An incident between Claybrook and Double Duty Radcliffe may have contributed to the demise of the Tigers.
They had some problems, I believe, and because Duty was doing much better than Claybrook thought, and so he was getting too much of the cut.
After a few games, Claybrook called a meeting with Double Duty.
Then when I walked in, he said, "Double Duty, you a smarter nigga than I thought you was." I said, I don't like those kind of remarks. I don't give a damn what you like. You taking my money. You making all the money, and I paid all the bills.
Double Duty played in Claybrook just that one season in 1936.
He tried to get me to come back, but I didn't go back because I didn't trust him no more.
I don't have any information at all that they played past 36. It would be nice if one could find something, but I do know what happened in 36, or after 36, because double-duty Radcliffe went from the Claybrook Tigers to Cincinnati and took 6 players with him, 6 of the top players on the Claybrook Tigers with him. And as a result, that certainly diminished the Claybrook team.
Not only was the team breaking up, the town was too.
Not only did they just start leaving him, they left most of the farms, okay, because the farming changed and they went to tractors. One man could take a tractor and do as much as 20 men could do with mules. So once they went to go to tractors, it wasn't necessary to have this much farming. They need all these farm hands, okay? The population of the place just kind of fell apart, and the activities were kind of less because of the fact that people just were not there.
Claybrook himself left in 1940 to start a logging operation nearby in Marianna, Arkansas. He died in Memphis in 1951. The Tigers were good, but in the end, they did not accomplish Claybrook's goal in forming the team. His son did leave the plantation.
At the time, he did not necessarily like the South too well, okay? Because the fact that he liked city life, okay? There was no city life here. He liked the lights, okay, I want to tell you.
John Claybrook Jr. moved to New York and managed several restaurants. He died in 1991. The Claybrook Tigers are just one of the many interesting stories of Negro League baseball. Like the players and teams represented here, they rose above the circumstances of their time to play a game they loved and play it well.